The first image that inspired me to become a photographer was a wedding portrait of my mother. It's a studio-based shot, just her on her own, and I just remember seeing it as a child in our living room and just kind of staring at it for a while. Just every now and again, I'd just be kind of caught by it, and I'd look at it, and I couldn't really understand why I was so drawn to it. A few years later, now that I was actually involved in photography, I can kind of look back on it and realise that image had such a timeless property value to it that I really connected with it. And a big part of me wants to do that for someone else. Like, I want to create an image or create images that stay with someone for the rest of their life. Like, they can just kind of put it up in their lounge or wherever, and the person who itself will love it, and it'll impact the family members as well. And, you know, it just, that kind of timeless beauty just keeps getting passed on, and yeah, that's what inspires me to create something timeless and beautiful.
I liked some of the more abstract photographers, so the early photographers like Man Ray and or later Bill Brandt, in their black and white graphic work. And that was because at the time I was doing a lot of darkroom printing, so I was more doing black and white than colour, so I was looking at those for inspiration. So not a single photograph, but more of a look. And so I'd be printing on quite high contrast paper, which for those using darkrooms knows grade 5, which gives a polarised look or black and white look, and there weren't too many grey tones. So anything like that used to catch my eye. In the same way I quite like illustration as well, so that's not so far away from it.
Last time I was kind of blown away by a big collection of work was I was in Basel, Switzerland, I think it was about a year ago, and it was the Wildlife Photographer of the Year, and everything was, I don't know how you call it, because I've never had any of my work displayed this way. It was very big, like in light boxes, and it really showed the photographs that made it are the ones where you kind of look into the animal's eyes and you feel like their soul, and as human beings we kind of make human connections with photographs like this. But it was really good, and I ended up coming away with a lot of postcards of images that I liked. So I'd say that's the last one that comes to mind.
I think what kind of got me really going with photography was after this family trip to Canada. I shot it was like an old building, kind of the end of a row of shops, and it had this kind of washed out graphic sign on this kind of exposed brickwork, and I got a shot of that with kind of like the mountains in the background and the kind of snow in the sky. We had a print of that made, and kind of that's been hung up, you know, in our house ever since. And I think from that moment, from kind of, you know, seeing the scene, you know, capturing it and kind of getting it printed, that kind of process just kind of took to me. I think from then on I've just kind of wanted to do more and more with it.
I always remember when I did my AS photography course, we were taught about the Magnum photographers. So I always remember Henri Cartier-Bresson, and there was one picture where he uses natural frames quite a lot, and I think it was just people looking through holes in a wall. So I always remembered that I like to kind of make natural frames with my own photography.
I think it was a seascape photo, and I seen somewhere online or in a magazine of the misty water, and I just thought it was different, so I wanted to learn how to take a photo like that.
I just got back from 3 weeks working in Italy and had the chance to go and see Murano exhibits in Venice, which had kind of modern artists from all over the world doing installations. It's not something that I'd usually go and see, but my assistant Nikki's a sculptor, so she convinced me to go along, and yeah, I was actually really fascinated. It was really, really unusual, especially in a setting that's so traditional like Venice. Seeing some really kind of mad modern art installations was, yeah, it was quite cool.
I don't think there was a single image, I would say, that made me become a photographer or inspired me to take up photography, but more a series of work, or several series of work made by an American photographer called David Leventhal, who has created several bodies of work using miniature figurines, some rather heavy themes, such as Hitler Moves East. He used figurines to portray rather adult themes, which I found quite fascinating.
I don't think there was ever a first image. Again, when I was at college, I was introduced to Rankin's work first, and that's when I sort of realised that there's a lot out there, and that's when I started looking into it.
Probably not one particular image, but a set of images. Don't know if you remember the book released probably about 15 years ago, Guernsey for Our Eyes. Some of the work in there, especially by Nick Desprez, some of that stuff was just breathtaking, and I think that really sold Guernsey as a place, and I think that's probably my first big inspiration. Yeah.
I thought about this when I saw you question this, and I don't think there is anything. I've never had this sort of moment where I've seen something, opened a book or come across some picture that I thought, wow, I've got to do that. It's just something that evolves slowly from, say, just something I wanted to try, and I went on and did that. So I don't think I've had any influences really, and I'm very careful not to sort of have influences. I want to do my own thing, and yes, you've got some great sort of artists around, and I remember going to the library when I was first interested in photography. You look at some of the masters like Ansel Adams and things like that, and there was a lot of inspiration from looking at some books. Galen Rower was another photographer who I've really admired. Again, he was into the outdoors, climbing and things, and I really enjoyed his books. So yeah, there's a couple sort of people that I really admired, and there's a few others, work that I've come across and liked. But yeah, I don't think there was any one instance where I really looked at something and thought, wow, that's what I've got to do.